Welcome back to the Best Ball Boardroom, where we're taking ideas and we're turning them into millions of dollars. I am back, Justin Hersey, your chairman of the board, and woof, we have an exciting meeting for you all today. I'm on the road, you can tell, but that's not stopping us from having this important boardroom meeting. We are fortunate to have with us a new board director. He might be the most knowledgeable expert on this year's rookie class. Coming off that most accurate mock draft and one of the most unpredictable NFL drafts since mock draft databases started tracking it, formerly of NBC, Fantasy Sports Writers Association award winner, currently at 444 and Bedsford's, none other than Mr. John Daigle. How are we doing?
Doing well. What a lovely introduction. Also, am I the one who's following up that meeting of the minds draft between you, Liam, and Pat Corain?
I mean, ChatGPT said it best. We all got lucky once. You throw spaghetti, you see what sticks. Was your mock draft that you finished most accurate? That was obviously like you got right more than just once. That's like what? How many picks? 12, 13, 14? That was impressive.
So actually it was quote unquote only 9, but since this was literally the toughest year for mock drafting ever, 9 was more than capable, obviously, of taking down this whole thing and finishing with the most accurate mock. The goal is still to take down that damn Josh Norris, but we will gladly take the alternative in having the most accurate mock. That's totally fine.
I like that. I don't want to throw names, but I believe there's someone on TV who literally got one name correct out of 32.
Sure.
So 9 times is quite more impressive. What high level, what can you take from that and apply to best ball drafting, fantasy football analysis? Give us a little peek behind the curtain.
Oh, it's the same thing I was hearkening when doing the mock draft. It's that I still feel like a lot of people don't understand what they are good at and then fine tune that skill to work best for them. And so what I was preaching, I think I even said this when I did the Underdog show with Josh Norris and Hayden Winks 48 hours prior to the draft, is that it seemed like so many people were taking in all the information, but they shouldn't because they are not people who are good at then spitting out 99% of it. Whereas I know I have many weaknesses in my game, but I know that's one of my skills is to take a lot of information and ignore 99% of it. And so if you're not someone who can do that, like taking all the information and still like hold your ground, like research it all in your head, like the Charlie Day meme, and then come back with like your same take before because you already did all the analysis, like don't take in that information, actually whittle down what you take in. And so I think that's a skill everyone should learn about in life, like what they do best, and then catering that to your strengths.
I love it. I love it. And what would you say your number one strength is?
Since this is now a therapy session, I think that is actually one of my strengths is taking all the information in and then being able to shit out 99% of it. Also, I guess another strength is making personal connections. Does that help us out in best ball? Because I think that's actually the Southern hospitality in me, that I naturally am passionate about everything in life. And so then what that becomes is like pestering you, Justin, about what you enjoy in life, like wine, for instance. And then I just start egging you on about what you love. And then it becomes a personal conversation because I'm so passionate about what you're passionate about. And I don't mean to be. That's just who I am naturally. So I think that's another strength accidentally.
I love it. Well, a lot of information and seeing we poop out.
Too much.
How about this for a lot of information? Schedule release is today. We've started seeing some leaks here and there. We've got about 5 games that we can maybe apply to this draft. I did just jump in one, so feel free to jump in. We'll get on the screen in a minute. Draft starts in a little under a minute. But real quick recap of the games that we have. We've got Cincinnati at Kansas City. We're going to have Carolina at Jacksonville. We'll have Pitt at Seattle. We'll have the Rams at the Giants, and we'll have Green Bay at Minnesota. A lot of fun there. We were talking a little beforehand. Jacksonville, the only warm weather there, but a couple of fun games. Any initial thoughts on those 5? And obviously the rest of the games are going to come out pretty soon.
As you mentioned, behind the scenes, we were talking a little bit about it. And as someone who thinks it's easy and wise to get exposure to the Rams passing offense this year, that's kind of the discount stack I've been looking at early on in best ball drafts. And so a shootout potentially with the Giants does seem intriguing. But again, since it's in New York, it's going to be outdoors at the time when we're trying to avoid outdoor games. Maybe that makes me temper my expectations a tad. I just think it's amazing, honestly, though, that you already have this pulled up. So we're going to get this very slight EV just like 6 hours before the actual schedule release. So good job, buddy.
We're going to get a tiny bit. Obviously, if we had our way, this would probably be a midnight boardroom meeting after the draft comes out. But you know what? It's corporate world. We got to have meetings during a certain hour time period. That's what the big bosses say. So we work with what we got. 2 wide receivers off the board to start off. Is there any reason not to go CMC?
No. It is Christian McCaffrey in the spot. I've heard people cite the splits with Elijah Mitchell healthy, but just to let everyone know, I don't put anything to account in those splits because Christian McCaffrey still played 95% of first half snaps. The only reason Elijah Mitchell came in to put the game away because the game was put away by McCaffrey. If it was a competitive game, I'm guessing Elijah Mitchell would step back and touches. So we don't worry about Elijah Mitchell at all.
And so in those games he was splitting with Elijah Mitchell, he still was finishing either RB1 or very close to it. So there's also an argument that, like, you know what, maybe this actually increases the chance of his health staying throughout the entire year. Maybe if there is like a close title run for the playoffs for that number 1 seed near the end of the season, maybe they start using him more often there. That's when we'd want him to get his most usage in the fantasy playoffs. Doesn't scare me. The only argument I have against Christian McCaffrey is if you're starting with a running back in one of these first 3 spots, there's a lot of running backs that I really like in the second and third round, end of second, beginning of third. And I never want to start a draft running back. I'm okay with it this year right now, going like 2 out of 3 running backs, but that's one of the things that I at least take into consideration. It's why I am taking Jamar Chase second over Christian McCaffrey for now. Just because I can usually go Chase and then 2 very good running backs, something we'll consider as we go forward in this draft.
And there is a major and obvious receiver cliff around round 6 or 7 that I'm trying to avoid. And so I'm trying to have a particular number of receivers before I hit those rounds because it gets ugly to a point where I don't want to take any more after that. So I agree with you. Just the fact that there are a couple players here at the end of the second, third that I think should actually be at the end of round 1. That's the way I'm handling drafts, at least for May. And then we'll go from there whenever ADP adjusts.
Yeah. I mean, these are ETR ranks, so it's obviously not straight ADP, but where's that fall off for you? Like who's the player that you're like, that's really where it falls off?
For wide receiver?
Yes. You were saying that like 6 to 7 drop off.
Yeah, it's honestly around where you have pointed at. The George Pickens, the Jahan Dotson, the great Rich Rebar has a stat out there that George Pickens led every wide receiver in go routes last year. The issue is that Kenny Pickett in his starts was also bottom 10 of the league in uncatchable passes. And so now logically put that information together. George Pickens only runs go routes. Kenny Pickett is bad at throwing deep. What do you think the results are? This is not Pickens' fault. This is more Pickett's fault than anything. And so once we hit this spot, we're left stuck taking chances on like a Kadarius Toney. The hype has already gotten out of control. Like, how could that ever go wrong? Someone saying Kadarius Toney will be a wide receiver 1. Juju Smith-Schuster, who knows how he fits in with the Patriots. And also, he's still playing with Mac Jones, so I don't even want to take into account much of the Patriots offense. Even though getting their stacks at discount, I'll still do in large field tournaments. And then in this range, again, betting on Michael Thomas for the 3rd year in a row, if not 4th, to bounce back. It's just a lot of volatility and question marks whenever I can guarantee like at least 2 studs in those first 4 rounds. So that's the way I handle it now.
I like it. So for you, it's really like right around the Brandon Cooks that drop off. I think there's definitely one there. I think for me personally, I'm still okay with the Tony, the Davis, because I do think like in the worlds that those actually hit, they're hitting harder than anyone else. And
sure,
they're tied to Buffalo. They're tied to Kansas City. I think Juju has similar risk, but like there's just not much upside. And I think Michael Thomas has lost a lot of upside with Olave there too. That's where like it seems such a drop off with Alan Lazard, Jacoby Myers, Quentin Johnston for our ranks. But like that Johnston obviously has the upside, maybe not the actual, probably one of the lowest floors in that area as a number 3 wide receiver behind Keenan and Big Mike. But yeah.
And then you get into Zay Jones, and I don't even think Zay Jones will play in 2 wide receiver sets this year. That was the whole point of drafting him like in rounds 15 on last season was that he was going to start. I don't think he starts ahead of Calvin Ridley now. So I definitely worry about Zay Jones being in that range too.
Yeah, agreed. That's where I think that big drop off is. We are coming back up. Jalen Hurts at the top of the board. After that, a slew of running backs. Chris Olave. Are you taking Jalen Hurts when he follows you here?
I'm open to it. It is slightly behind on ADP. So in this case, I think we can pay the tax because that's all this is just actually getting an elite quarterback. What's happened now is everyone thinks that paying a tax on quarterbacks beyond like the big four is wise. And so all these quarterback ADPs are getting pushed up for the value of the top four, but they're not considering like we shouldn't actually push up Justin or Trevor Lawrence and a couple others around that range. So yeah, like when it actually comes to paying a good tax on Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, of course, I'll definitely do that.
Yeah, I think those are all priced appropriately from like a, hey, what they're adding to your value from a positional standpoint. I do think it's interesting. Like I was really big on Lamar pre the signing contract. He was going ADP 50. But when you do look at like even Lamar with his good years is still averaging around like 3 points per game less than what the big three did last year. And now he's inching closer to about only a round difference. It's tough. Devonta Smith goes there. Would have liked to have obviously grabbed that stack. We are now in that big running back territory, getting some Nick Chubb value right here. Any reason to go against ADP in the value?
No. Nick Chubb, Tony Pollard are the two best values in best ball right now. So I take Nick Chubb every single time around this range.
What are your thoughts on, end of last year, we start hearing that from a coaching staff of Cleveland, hey, we need to actually shape this offense around Deshaun Watson, plugged in, came in week 11, 12, I think it wasn't really fit for him. Obviously, it was that still run heavy. It sounds like they want to be a bit more pass heavy. They bring in Elijah Moore. They draft Cedric Tillman. They still have Amari Cooper and Donovan Peoples-Jones. And Njoku had his breakout. Is this team actually going to become more pass heavy? And is that actually a good thing or is that a bad thing for Nick Chubb?
I don't know if they become more pass heavy, but I do believe they run more 3 wide sets. And to me, the argument for Chubb is that he averaged 7 yards per carry from 3 wide sets from 11 personnel last year. And even in finishing as the RB6 in points per game in half PPR leagues like underdog, his situation got even better. Like last year, he was a 3rd to 5th rounder, depending when you got him, and you got that value. I still think you're getting value at the 2nd, 3rd round turn, considering that there is no Kareem Hunt. They most likely re-sign him. Everyone keeps citing Jerome Ford, but Jerome Ford is still just a backup running back. Like they will lean on Nick Chubb as an every down player from 3 wide sets. So yeah, I just buy in every single time. And I have him ahead of Saquon Barkley. I have Tony Pollard ahead of Saquon Barkley. And so the fact you can get these two players at the turn as opposed to where Barkley's going at the 1st and 2nd round turn, I just think it's crazy not to buy into it right now. It's the dip you want, just like Barkley and Dalvin Cook last year at this time.
Yeah, no, completely agree. And I mean, it's just interesting to see, like, even Ramondre at 31, that feels like a value to me. Josh Jacobs at 32, that feels like a strong value to me.
Yep.
Breece Hall is going to fall to around this area as well. I'm a little lower on Breece Hall, but like if you're getting him at 36 or something, that feels like a value to me. And maybe it's the early drafters with the wide receiver heavy and such, but gosh, I just can't imagine taking Keenan Allen or DK Metcalf ahead of these running back studs.
Yeah, and with Josh Jacobs, like I didn't think I'd be in a position to draft him like you, but given this state and where he's currently going, usually mid to end of 3rd round, I definitely take him too. I really thought he'd be a 2nd or 1st round player after leading the league in touches. But if he's going to go around this range, then sure, I'll take him, especially over Breece Hall every time, just because and I understand, especially from the people who know much more about these things than me, like every torn ACL is completely different. Breece Hall's was significantly better relative to Javonte Williams. So maybe we shouldn't worry too much about Breece Hall. But in trying to guesstimate the ADP dips based on news we're going to get, you can already foresee like one little headline from Underdog about Breece Hall, like being moved along slowly, and then his ADP falls in the summer, and that we can get him suddenly in the 5th round. So that's why I haven't been taking much of Breece Hall in May, at least.
And I will say, when we get to this fourth round, this is for me where there is a like, even though ADP wise, you're not seeing with the running backs, for me in a mentality of like the value to my team where I want to draft them, I think there's such a strong cliff between really Brees Hall and this next group of running backs. I think ETN, I think Gibbs, like you're now maybe, I think ETN's upside is substantially limited by his lack of pass catching compared to the Brees Hall, Josh Jacobs, Ramondre. And if you're going from a pure like projection standpoint, there's no way he's hitting just from a utilization and kind of efficiency as Derrick Henry. Gibbs could be an absolute stud, but he obviously brings a ton of risk and early season risk just from lack of playing and slower rookie ramp. So this is where it's even more important for me to kind of grab that third round running back that I like so much, because I don't want to be, and I probably won't be drafting many running backs in the fourth unless you have one of these guys really falls.
ETN's the big one that I'm not quite understanding. And I'll go into that spiel in a second once we make this pick. What are you thinking currently?
All right, definitely a wide receiver. We have our QB. There's no tight end that I want to reach. I mean, you could go Kittle because for San Francisco, but that's quite a reach for me. We have no wide receivers. We need a wide receiver.
I like McLaurin in this range. This is the first time in his career I'm buying in on McLaurin, just because I do think we get significantly better quarterback play, whether it's Hal or Jacoby Brissett. I'm not sure which one. I'm on Team Hal, but I get either argument, thinking that finally Terry McLaurin, who has never finished as a top 20 receiver in points per game, I think this is finally the year giving the upgrade under center.
Okay. And then, so when we look at the rest of the core around there, you have Dotson. From a running back standpoint, they lost McKissick, so maybe we've got a little more actual even receptions that are going to split out. Maybe Curtis Samuel gets a little more of a gadget role, but it really feels like what I was getting to is like McLaurin and Dotson are your pretty, highly targeted, I'm just centrally targeted, highly targeted, whatever, grouping. I'm going to get the word while you talk. Don't worry. Highly concentrated. We got there. Okay.
Christian Kirk also just went while we were talking. Christian Kirk was someone I was looking at. Gosh, it's so rich for Drake London. But if you're telling me to pick one between London and Kyle Pitts, I'm taking London every single time. So if that's the hedge we're making here, because only one can get there. There's not enough passing volume. It would be Drake London for sure.
Yeah, and like it's just such a reach for me to be grabbing tight end at this spot.
That's why I struggle with George Kittle as well, because like I don't want to be taking T.J. Hawkinson, George Kittle. I don't want to be taking a tight end in this range. After Travis Kelce, in my opinion, they're basically all the same players. So you just wait for the tiers to flatten out. That's why I'm such a big last 3 rounds, stack on 3 guys that just correlate kind of person, because all we're asking for, Hayden Winks put it best, and so I just steal what he said to me, that all we're really asking for is Travis Kelce to be not as good. He can be good, but what if he's not as good? What happens? And I don't think it's really TJ Hawkinson surpassing him. I just think that means that the rest of the tight ends who are not good catch up. And so I don't mind just waiting for those 3 tight ends at the end.
Yep. No, I definitely hear that. I found myself going for one of those like Darren Waller, Pat Freiermuth, and then 2 late ones where I'm not really giving up that much more, because if you look at the kind of at that wide receiver range where the Waller and Freiermuth are, we're most likely past those wide receivers we like. So now we're at that cliff where I'm not losing too much value by not getting that wide receiver. There's some running backs there you like, but if you're already set up well there, like that's where I'm okay with. Okay, I've got one guy who kind of gives me some weekly upside, and then you're grabbing 2 later that now you also have a little more ability to kind of take a chance, grab a Sam Laporta, grab another one of those rookies. Maybe you have a tight end that you think has some late upside that has that weekly spike potential. Because if we've seen, we mentioned this on the most recent stream earlier this week, but last year, I think it was 2 of the top 6 tight ends were late round. The year before that, it was 3 of the top 6. We've seen this trend. Yes, they may not have as many of the spike weeks, but they definitely can still give you that level of consistency. And I don't want to pay round 11, 12, 10, 11, 12 from tight ends for consistency. I'll pay for that in maybe the 17, 18, but I'd rather look for those spike weeks.
That makes a lot of sense. And going back quickly to Travis Etienne, To me, I think everyone will probably cite his receiving usage and being literally like a 3-down back playing nearly every snap last year. Also, just averaging a route run on over 70% of the team's dropbacks. But at the same time, the fact is, like, he hasn't shown the ability to earn targets since that season before he tore his ACL in college. Like, since then, even last year, top 10 among running backs in total routes run and just 22nd in targets on extreme usage. I don't think he just earns these targets overnight. Not to mention the fact that Tank Bigsby, for whatever kind of player Bigsby will be in the NFL, the fact is in the SEC, like, not only did he lead his own team in rushing every year since 2020 Auburn, but also he has a career 15.4% target share in college. Like, the dude has actually earned targets across 4 years in the SEC. That's crazy. So I do worry that Bigsby comes in and immediately is just better at that singular role that would make Etienne like a top 6, top 7 player. Thus, I think Etienne should be like a low-end RB1 that we probably should honestly just avoid overall.
Yeah, and I mean, Tank Bigsby was what, a late 3rd rounder in today's NFL.
Capital.
That's almost like a 2nd rounder. Like, if we think a couple years back, like, that's investing substantial capital at the running back position on a team that previously with Etienne, when they had another running back they trusted, say James Robinson or someone, like, they actually used him. This seems like a smarter coaching staff than they obviously had 2 years ago. It wouldn't shock me if they want to have a bit more of a 1-2 punch than just having Etienne be that bell cow. And once again, Etienne's being drafted in this draft 2 spots behind Breece Hall, 3 spots behind Derrick Henry, 6 spots behind Josh Jacobs. That's just too expensive for me.
I was drafting Jag stacks in the initial big board pre-draft, but I think in Best Ball Mania, it is quite expensive since Lawrence, again, is getting top 4 treatment when he shouldn't be there, given that he doesn't have the same like rushing and passing equity of those big 4 quarterbacks.
All right. Now, John, we have the Kyle Pitts decision. Oh, never mind. I was actually going to make it talk about it. Like, we said we can't do Drake London and Kyle Pitts. We want to invest.
I would not have let you do it. We can't do it.
We'll take our Eagle stack. As we mentioned, don't love drafting tight ends, but hey, we're getting it as a stack. This gives us the upside. And now we're probably just going to devote last 2-round capital to 2 more tight ends.
2 more tight ends.
We'll see.
But yeah, but say honestly, at this range, given the types of players that are falling, because I do think we're getting every down players falling to the later rounds, I don't even mind tacking on just 1 more and calling it quits with our stack at tight end.
I think that's probably fair. We'll see who the second QB is. And we did get an elite QB, so we're pretty locked in. We're only going to go with 2 QBs, and the next one's probably going to be a late to very late one. So we're going to have some extra draft capital available from those draft slots.
And we got 2 strong running backs. So, like, this could be a wide receiver heavy team, knowing we're strong everywhere else.
I think we need to start going more wide receivers. I don't love having 2 through 6 rounds. Marquise Brown, Treylon Burks. I do like Marquise Brown, especially from this format with Kyler's going to be healthy later on.
Yep.
Okay.
That is my thought exactly. It's just hoping Kyler plays at all this year. We'll see how they do, because this team on paper is an absolute disaster. They are preparing for a post Kyler Murray world, I believe. So we'll see if he even plays, honestly.
I mean, when they have maybe the top 2 draft picks next year, it's going to be quite interesting for the Cardinals. So, hey, maybe you don't want, go ahead, win some games, make your team good. Let's let Kyler, because here's my other thought with Kyler is from his position, if he's healthy, he's either going to be playing for his job with Arizona and saying, like, no, I'm the guy here. I want to stay here. Let me play. And I'm going to play you out of that Caleb Williams spot, Drake May, for at least your pick. Or he's like, F it. I am done with this team. I'm fed up. Just let me sit and you guys can suck. You can go get your QB next year and I'll go sign elsewhere. I can see either of those happening.
And maybe it speaks a lot that the people in charge, Monty Ossenfort, Jonathan Gannon, like, they all traveled to the unveiling of his statue back in his hometown. Like, maybe that matters, showing their support behind Kyler. But honestly, they're going to be in the rich man's version of the Justin Fields situation the Bears had this year, and that they can trade either player. They just need to make the right call. And honestly, given that the money's already sunk into Kyler Murray, a team is still going to throw everything at them for Kyler. That's no big deal. But you take Caleb Williams and the rookie contract already, like, without having seen Caleb Williams play a single snap in the NFL, that is the wiser move.
Yeah. All right. Bucks and Cardinals get May and Caleb next year. Where's Kyler going?
May and Caleb. Kyler would go. I think Tennessee would be open to trading up, depending what happens with Will Levis. That's actually one of the big keys of the schedule release I'll be looking at tonight is when is the Titans bye week? Because usually you can pinpoint those like we did with Kenny Pickett. The team is going to start this rookie quarterback post this bye because they're going to suck these first 6 or 7 games. The Titans are in that exact mode right now. Yeah, I would say the Titans. I think the Bucks may be open to trading. Maybe the Patriots are a team, given that they were trying to trade up for a quarterback this year, but ownership stepped in and did not allow Bill to trade Mac Jones for whatever reasons. I don't know why he had his hands tied by Mac Jones. So yeah, those are a couple teams.
Yeah, I see. I mean, I don't know what Atlanta's doing. It's interesting because Atlanta, like, I can't think off the top of my head win odds, but like Atlanta's probably one of the favorites, if not the favorite, to win the division for the NFC South. I mean, it's not Carolina, it's not Tampa. New Orleans and Atlanta are probably kind of fairly neck and neck. And they're doing this all with Desmond Ridder. And I don't think anyone actually thinks that Desmond Ridder is the future for that team. No. But I think the coaching staff is content that, like, you know what, hey, maybe Desmond Ridder won't lose us these games. And we can win them with our defense. And we can win them on the ground. And, like, that is possible, but that's also a year-by-year strategy. That's what they're doing right now with the personnel they have because they feel that gives them the best chance of winning given their situation. That does not mean that next year, if they had the opportunity to get a top 2 QB or trade for someone like Kyler, they wouldn't do it. So each year for the next 1, 2, 3 years until they actually get a QB, their names are going to be, popping up for, yes, this is a team that could be trading for that QB.
Much like how I think the Cardinals are using this year to see how the team fares without Kyler. I think that's how they're scouting the team. Like 2023 is a year without Kyler. How are we doing? I think the Falcons are using this year to see how they're doing with nothing under center. Like just the fact that Taylor Heineke was signed there as a backup to compete, and they're comfortable in perhaps going to him as a game manager. I'm curious to see how much these two players in Ridder and Heineke fail them, because if it's a lot, then the Falcons will get serious about quarterback next year. But until then, they're just thinking, oh, Ridder makes $1.4 million annually over the next few years of his rookie contract. So we don't care about the money dealt under center. We will continue to build on our, league high run play rate from neutral game script and our league efficient rushing attack.
All right, we are back. We know we're not great on wide receivers, but we've already reached that spot where it's tough on wide receiver.
Gosh, it's ugly. Yeah.
How do you feel about
we're a case study
reach for Alexander Mattison, given even the more confidence now that Dalvin's gone?
Yep, and it's not too much of a reach, just a few spots. I think Hayden Weeks' studies shows you just try not to reach more than 8 spots. 8 to 12 spots is usually keep the range in. So this is nothing. This is fun. You're
also looking at closing line value. And assuming Dalvin is gone, which is what it really looks like, Madison's going to be going near, like, I don't know, I'd say short term moves up to like almost the Miles Sanders range. If Dalvin's gone. And then because there's still a chance they bring in one of the dusty old guys, Zeke, Fournette, or Kareem Hunt. But like if we then get confidence that it's just like Madison and McBride, Madison might move up to that kind of 4th rounder.
I've also, and I've been drafting McBride as a later round running back, thinking that Dalvin Cook's gone. So he's almost like discount Alexander Madison, because I know people cite Ty Chandler, but dude, Ty Chandler's a kick returner. Like that guy's not going to get any touches. He doesn't matter at all. It's either 1 or 2 guys, at least how the roster currently stands.
Yeah. Okay.
We have to do it. I mean,
we need wide receiver.
It's so ugly. And I prefer Lazard to Juju. Lazard has shown the ability to earn targets, so that's where I lean. But if you have another player you prefer, I don't mind.
I'm fine with anyone. Would you do Zay Flowers for the ADP? We're getting 9 picks on him. I don't have any of him.
Yeah, let's do it. I think I tend to like Zay Flowers more just because I don't view Odell Beckham 2 years removed from playing actual football, and Nelson Aguilar and Rashad Bateman for that matter. I don't view them as blocks so much as just speed bumps. Like, of course, Zay Flowers can get ahead of them if he's worth first-round capital. So I don't mind taking a chance thinking there's, Flowers can be second on this team in targets.
Yeah, and like Baltimore's, even with Todd Monken's, not just going to become like a team that's throwing
No.
it 500-600 times. We get that. But we have seen seasons before where, Lamar is very efficient from a touchdown. I think it was 9.5% or something, even without having that insane volume. And I think it was, Sylvan Levitan in the most recent ETR pod with Josh Norris were just talking about how starting off last year, Ravens were very hot. I think it was back-to-back games with 3 touchdowns, maybe been 3 straight games with 3 touchdowns each. Like, there is a desire that if that offense can click, like, they're willing to throw it and they're able to do it highly efficiently. And so that's part of the reason why, like, I'm not in love with Mark Andrews. And when you were talking about Travis Kelce earlier, like that gap between Kelce and Andrews, I do think there are just more variables this year because of the additional pass catchers that, like, maybe Mark Andrews was not a Travis Kelce focal of the offense because that's what they wanted to be, but maybe more just because out of necessity and their lack of having, top tier wide receivers previously. Now they have all these weapons. I think it's the biggest upgrade for Lamar, but I'm also willing to kind of take a couple of these pieces, even though Zay Flowers, his projection's not that great. He's a rookie. He still has some other people competing against him. There's a decent chance that Bateman, Zay, I'm not going to throw Beckham in there, but someone actually is able to rise with Lamar and become an alpha.
I'm so curious to see how this offense is unveiled under Todd Monken. And I know we are betting ahead of time. So, like, there's no time to look and wait and see on this. But, dude, like, remember, Lamar Jackson has played 24 games the last 2 years. He has just 5 top 5 finishes in that span. He hasn't been worth his ADP the last 2 seasons. And now settling in as the QB5 or QB6, I've actually been avoiding him. But if we do get more passing production to go along with the mobility that's just going to naturally come the way he plays football, like, I could just be wrong. And so I'm so curious. I'm still trying to gauge how much I should be betting on an alternative offense.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, it's just like I'm bullish on him, but he jumped up to ADP 30. And again, that's only around behind those 3 elite guys. And we've only even seen when Lamar's playing really well compared to what we saw with those other 3 guys last year, he was still averaging 3 fantasy points per game fewer. So I think if anything, like, I loved him when he was in those mid 40s and something, mid 40s. So I'm all the way to 50. I probably would still be drafting him around that kind of 4th round, early 4th, which puts it in that like 37 to pick 40 range. But when you're combining with, he's not that much more expensive than those other QBs and all those other running backs that are going next to him, I'm out on him at this current price. I don't know. I think he may drop down a little as we go a little more in the season. And this is still just a bit more of overreaction, over jubilee to the signings, to the contract. People may be feeling like they missed out on the top QBs and they need to play catch up or so. But I'm not in on him at this QB overall 30.
Just the fact that we can both agree that Lamar's in a different tier than those players that are being drafted around, that should tell you, like, just avoid him. Like, right now is not the time. Maybe we will get a little bit of time to go back to him later on.
Yeah. And yes, he was injured, but we're talking about even on a fantasy points per game, when he was healthy, when he was playing well, he was still scoring 3 points per game fewer than those elite ones.
It's also a full 2 years. Like, he wasn't injured for a full 2 years. And we all know Lamar Jackson. It's a famous JJ Zachariason tweet. Like, dude, Lamar's as sick as a child every single year. No one just has a worse, what's the term I'm looking for? Allergies, anything that Lamar Jackson has. Always something.
I hear that. All right. We do have Zay Jones, which feels like a bit of a tier from this. We could go with another running back. I
would actually just rather get a wide receiver than these running backs.
Yeah, and we need wide receiver. Like, we have, hey, if Madison actually does become like, hey, Dalvin's gone, McCaffrey, Chubb, Madison is a great, great trio.
As we talked about at the top, though, because I always like to use these streams, we do so many of them throughout the summer. I like to use them as big picture takeaways. Not necessarily even saying that this team will win. I hope we win. But the big picture takeaway, clearly, for anyone watching, is this is what happens. This is the sacrifice you make. And starting with 2 early running backs or 2 running backs and a quarterback is then you are clearly seeing the cliff at wide receiver, because that's not good. Like, these receivers, I'm worried about already. So that just tells you what to do when drafting. You are seeing the consequences live.
Very true. Yeah. And I mean, in the moment, McCaffrey, easy pick. Jalen Hurts, get a little value. Okay, cool.
Excellent.
Yeah. Nick Chubb, I'm getting 5 picks of value. I'm really bullish on him. I think he's great value. Awesome. You started the draft when it felt perfect, but now we're in this difficult situation. And so, but we know that. We know it's going to be a little uncomfortable. We need to just still kind of stick with these wide receivers and hope we really hit.
So I think that continues to be why, as we draft here, probably another wide receiver. It's too early for Nico.
I mean, I'm thinking like we want to hit some home runs. I don't want Odell.
I don't want Odell either. Sky or Mingo. Gosh,
if we go Mingo, we can maybe get Bryce Young as our second QB.
Let's go Mingo. I mean, I don't want to bet on Sky more anyway, so that's fine.
All right, I'm good with that. And yeah, I think I have very little Mingo, but the reason why I'm doing it, because I think this is a very expensive price for Jonathan Mingo, but the reason why I'm doing it is because as a rookie with a large range of outcomes, there is a chance that he becomes the number one wide receiver there. It's far more likely he does it than the other wide receivers that we're looking at in this range. And we know we have Bryce Young in a range that we need a second QB. Grabbing someone like Bryce Young in that, what is he going? 160? Bryce are 157 right now. It all fits into the team that we're building. So I'm willing to go against what I think is like a proper ranking because it fits well with our team.
I agree. And there is a real opportunity here for Mingo to play in 2 wide sets as early as this year, over GJ Shark, who only has a 1-year deal, less guaranteed money than he received from Detroit last year too. So the fact that they made Mingo the first wide receiver drafted on day 2, that's really good capital. I think they trust him a lot.
Yeah, I hear you.
Running backs. So we're at a position as well where I do like the running backs in this range. That's why, maybe Nick Chubb for being the best value. You do one of the two when drafting. Like you do get the next receiver, Tyreek Hill or Cooper Kupp, and then go Nick Chubb or Tony Pollard in round 2, rather than going, McCaffrey and then Chubb.
Yeah. I mean, it usually I would say if I'm grabbing McCaffrey, I'm definitely almost always grabbing another wide receiver.
Yeah.
And it's that not Garrett Wilson. It's Chris Olave. It's T. Higgins, maybe Devonta Smith. Those are the 3 that you usually have in that area. And I'm happy grabbing one of those 3 and then grabbing someone like the Chubb, Pollard, or Ramondre with the 3rd. And I just don't have an elite QB, and that's okay. But at least in this scenario, we thought we could have also gotten Jalen Hurts and Devonta Smith. Like we were kind of close to that falling to us. It was decent. Yeah.
And this trend will be bucked tonight, but this is also something I like doing before the schedule release, is just stacking divisional games, knowing that the NFL the last few years has purposely pushed all divisional games to the last few weeks of the season. And right now we do have a Jalen Hurts stack with Terry McLaurin. So that at least is maybe promising for potentially Eagles, Commanders in the fantasy playoffs.
Yep. Agreed. And yeah, PLO 2PL just mentioned it here. We talked about the top of the show. Carolina-Jacksonville is the reported week 17 matchup in Jacksonville. So not too scared of the weather there. Like that both teams of those are going to be at least Carolina is going to have more, probably peaking a bit more at the end of the season. So don't hate that if we end up kind of focusing on some late correlation game stacking there.
So far, so good. Although, as Overzet would say, wide receivers are a little weak, bro.
Wide receivers we know we're playing for this Jacksonville, Carolina. We're probably going to reach a little on Bryce Young to make sure we get that stack and the game stack there. This is where I'm going to see, does it look like Come As You Like or Jeremo is going to try to take Bryce Young on the turn? No, Carolina has Rodgers. I'd say it's possible, but not likely.
Rodgers maybe. I would be treating Rodgers personally as a 3 QB team, but maybe he won't. I don't know.
Yeah. If we look at still who's available, you got Kyler right up there. Most likely Kyler, Derek Carr get taken beforehand. So we could probably wait if we want. What do you
I'm okay with waiting.
Okay. I mean, I think we got to do it.
At this point, we have to, yeah.
I'm not that high on Thielen, but if we're going to get this Carolina stack, makes sense. Grab Thielen here.
And again, in this range, I'm just correlating with the wide receivers. Like we're already done thinking these guys are good. We're just trying to strategically do this.
And so one of the things I do like, there you go. He went with Derek Carr. We thought he'd get a QB, goes with Derek Carr. I think I actually saw really quickly he had a little correlation there. Maybe it was Michael Thomas. Chris Olave, that's what it was. Yeah. So it makes sense. What we were saying here is, so with correlation with these QBs like Bryce Young, with these teams that it's easy to stack later on, they don't actually have to do that well to make it a really valuable stack, because the expectations of where they're getting drafted from ADP wise is so low that even if Bryce Young leads this team to kind of like a league average offense, he and all his pass catchers are most likely all surpassing value. So we have the ability to kind of get that substantial value. While if you're stacking someone like Burrow, Higgins, and Chase, they have to be the number one passing offense, highly concentrated, even just to meet their value, or to maybe surpass their value. So that's one of those things where I do like kind of going all in, and I'm more willing to kind of go deeper on the stack if it's a later stack than early on with more draft capital.
And like, at least for Thielen, if we're banking on spike weeks and the best ball playoffs, like at least we know that literally at least 29% of his targets have come in the red zone every year since 2019. So although the explosiveness has dipped and yards per target dipping the last 5 seasons consecutively, like he earns targets and gets used where it matters most for fantasy. So I don't mind luck balling a couple 30-yard, 2-touchdown performances if it happens.
All right, I like it. All right, so again, we do not know who Philly is going to be playing week 17, so we can't really game plan too much for that right now. Looking to see if there's anything else from a Jacksonville.
And as Target Hog also mentions in the chat, yes, Karain won BBM3 with 2022 Patriots. More importantly, he won with
Miami, New England.
Yeah,
Tyquan Thornton.
He won with Tyquan Thornton more than anything, because Thornton put up that massive week 17 performance.
And
because Thornton was a value
on the other side.
Yeah. Whereas, Juju is not really a value. Thornton was a, later round pick.
Right. And that was the only time he drafted Tyquan Thornton the entire, best ball mania last year.
So that should be something more people tout. And I still, I know I love Karain, don't get me wrong, but I think the point everyone should be talking about when promoting Best Ball Mania is the fact that second place had one bullet in the entire tournament. They turned $25 into $1 million, and everyone's talking about Karain's winning lineup. Like, bro, 25 to 1, that's how you sell a tournament. One entry, $1 million. That's amazing.
Hey, Pat Karain is a great friend to Underdog Fantasy. They love him, but I'm pretty sure Underdog would have been quite happy if the person with one bullet ended up taking it down. From a purely marketing standpoint, no one more deserving than Pat Karain. We'll get that out there. But hey. And it shows, obviously, anything can be done. Everyone who's watching right now on May 11th, obviously, you guys are the sickos. You guys are the degens. You guys are the ones who are probably drafting 150 of these. If not 150 of these, definitely 150 puppies. There's a reason we're here right now focusing on this. But yes, obviously, chip in a chair. But with the Tyquan Thornton, Raheem Mostert thing, the reason why, Pat Karain used his only share on Tyquan Thornton in that one draft is because he was stacking that game, Miami, New England. And yeah, normally he's not going to. He wasn't big on Tyquan Thornton, but for that, it made sense and it worked out very, very well.
I'll be looking to see these Miami outdoor games if they play at home in the week 17 range.
Whew. Yeah, matchups from a trying to project defense, we've learned year over year is very difficult and unreliable.
Yeah.
We then realized that it's easier to project offenses versus offenses, and then you can at least more, accurately project games that have shootout potential. So we go for that. But even more so is we can at least project weather fairly well from at least a temperature standpoint and from a risk level. And so that's one of those things that I do. If you get a dome, that has a lot of value. I think it was Detroit, Seattle, either last year or the year before that we were talking about. Those are things that we really want to pay attention to. Green Bay, Minnesota. I think we said Minnesota is at home for that game. That'll be in a dome. Yeah. Justin Jefferson has done quite well against Jair Alexander at home in the past year.
By the way, I have a couple early Galaxy Brain season-long bets.
Okay.
Right now, dude, if you look up and down their rosters, Josh Allen is the X factor. The Dolphins have the best roster in that division, and it's not even close, honestly. Just even adding Bradley Chubb and Jalen Ramsey for a full season across from Xavier Howard. Hopefully Tua is healthy, but if not, I think Mike White is a significantly better backup than dropping off to Skylar Thompson. And remember, like in 3 games against Buffalo last year, Dolphins already showed they can beat them. They lost by a total 4 points in those 3 games. So, dude, the Dolphins like plus 320 to win the division. That's one of my favorite bets right now.
All right, we are back on the clock. Kyler keeps falling, but he is not the right fit for us.
Nope.
Someone in chat telling us that Arizona might play. I just did a quick search. I couldn't find anything there. Help me out here. What are we doing?
Oh, gosh, man. Look at these receivers. Look at this.
I mean, I had to do something.
Rondo
Maybe that guy.
Rondo Moore is sadly the one I keep betting on, and I can't tell you why. I don't know why. Like, maybe he plays underneath. They re-signed Greg Dortch and earns targets, even though that slot role will be less valuable this year since Cliff Kingsbury's offense literally was just hammered the slot receiver for 10 targets per game.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I'm okay. It's a one-off, whatever. We already had Marquise Brown, so it makes sense to kind of get a little more action on that. Maybe this does turn into a Philly, Arizona, and that works out well. We'll see. Put a little faith in you down there, James K. Coming back, we this Kyler fall is just ridiculous.
Yeah, we are at 170. Someone's going to get like 4 rounds of value whether he plays or not. That's crazy.
I mean, and
again,
drafted.
And like you and I are in agreement that we want to draft him, especially late, if only because if he plays, it probably is that last month of the season. That's when we want him the most.
Yeah. I mean, he just does not make sense in this team. We're not going to draft him. Honestly, part of the reason he's falling is because we have Marquise Brown and now Rondale Moore. So there's not someone that's like, oh, I really need to stack him. I can't let this fall anymore. This Dawson Knox hate at the inverse of the Kincaid love has just gotten insane. Like, he's still going to be their tight end. 163 ADP, 171 here. You have 10 seconds. Tell me why I shouldn't draft him.
You should draft him. I agree. The Dalton Kincaid, although I do like him as a player, it's blown out of proportion now as he's the tight end 11 overall. He's being drafted as low end tight end 1. Maybe he provides spike weeks, but it's still, even with first round capital, a rookie tight end who doesn't have a chance to lead the team in targets. Like Dalton Kincaid is not going to ever lead this team in targets ahead of Stephon Diggs. That was the argument, for example, for like David Njoku and a couple other late round players last year at tight end. You cannot make that for Kincaid. So it's just not worth that value. And in the opposite way, whereas Dawson Knox basically only scores touchdowns, that's the kind of value we want at this terrible position. So yeah, I'm taking the dip on Knox. And I'm taking the dip on Kenneth Walker, this being half PPR. I don't care so much. I want the receiving, don't get me wrong, but I don't care so much that he's losing receiving to Zach Charbonnet.
Yeah. I mean, people, if you're watching right now, put a screenshot on Twitter and make it known. You just saw Kyler Murray get drafted 1 slot before Trey Lance in a best ball mania draft. Like, Bo Bolts, congrats. This is just phenomenal value. I don't know who your other QBs are. You have Josh Allen and Kyler Murray. Well, cool. Effing done.
Cool. Yeah, good job. Yeah. Also, like Bradley, the next person who took Trey Lance, it's probably too early because you and I know the last few drafts we've done these past weeks, Trey Lance goes undrafted now. Like nobody wants him. So you could generally wait till the 18th round and get him in most leagues.
Yeah, let's see what his ADP is. 166 still?
It dips. Like everything's still adjusting. It's definitely still dipping. Like Dawson Knox, we wouldn't have got him. I don't think he would have dipped so far to come back to us around the turn. But I think Dawson Knox dips even further had we don't take him too.
Yeah.
Also, I mean, Target Hog, line of scrimmage, mentioned that he signed up for my Eliminator. Thank you for that. It's for charity. You just get to draft an Eliminator with me, which is great because it's best ball scoring. It's my latest tweet, I believe. If you go check it out on my Twitter.
Give a quick explanation of this. Go. That was half-ass. You got a couple minutes. I'll figure out this next pick. Give an explanation here. It's for charity.
It's for charity. It's for Fantasy Cares. So the same that we donate to help out, with the Scott Fish League, pretty much the same thing, just to help out people. And so in having a quote unquote celebrity league, you can now ensure you draft with me. And it is for free. Like you don't have to donate. I just promote, like you should donate, of course, even if it's just a little bit. And so you join that link and then we draft together and then it's all best ball scoring across the season. The lowest score every week is eliminated. Your team gets eliminated. And so basically it's just to have not the lowest score every single week in order to survive. And most importantly, since it's in the regular season, not only is it good to donate, but also it's great because I don't have to make lineup switches either. Like we don't have to worry about that since it's best ball scoring, which is always the hardest part for me in season because the grind takes a toll.
Love that. Go ahead, check out not Jay Daigle's latest tweet. We can put that in the comments here as well, but it's not Jay Daigle. I think I got that right. Check out his Twitter and you'll learn more about this. It's a really cool cause.
Yep.
Okay, we're coming back around here.
What's our build at now? So we're good at quarterback and tight end. We're just hammering out running backs and receivers.
I think so. I put Hayden Hurst in the queue just for the correlation, and I do like Hayden Hurst. Doesn't mean we have to draft him. I threw Chuba in there as well, another correlation aspect with the running back. And I do like Chuba this year. Wide receivers, if we take a look at this, just going to start throwing some guys in the queue. It's ugly, but I mean, it's around 16, 17. Of course, it's going to be ugly. We accept that. What do we think about? Gosh, there we go. What do we think about Olamide as a guys?
I haven't seen the Galaxy bring Zacchaeus take. What's this?
If Devonta Smith or AJ Brown gets hurt, I don't think Quez Watkins takes over their spots. Quez Watkins, if anything, got a little more target share last year because Chuba went. I really wanted Chuba there.
Chuba made sense, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we need a tight end. What do we think about these? Maybe Claypool.
Gosh, man, this is bad. We can hope Claypool gets more carries.
I think we need a running back.
Do you like him?
I didn't do it in time.
It's okay. We'll get a running back here. No one's going to take many of these.
No, it's fine. It just took us out of the running from taking Olamide Zacchaeus later on because we don't want 10 wide receivers. Right. But what I was going with is if A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith get hurt, I do not believe that Quez Watkins takes either spots. If anything, Quez got a little more targets when Dallas Goedert went out, sure. But I think that Olamide actually would plug more in from the way that he plays football to either their spots and then becomes just attached to one of the highest powered offenses in the league.
Okay. I haven't heard someone give me the Olamide take, so I like it. At running back, though, I think we're down to, it would be Kenneth Gainwell or Deuce Vaughn for stacking purposes. We go Gainwell, Swift.
I think Gainwell's the easy pick here. Yeah.
Swift maybe makes Gainwell redundant, but at the same time, Swift was traded for not only to build on again, but remember, they get back a compensatory pick if he leaves next year, which he will because they're not going to re-sign him. So they were just doing strategically team building.
Well, also, I mean, it's the best offense, arguably most efficient offense in the league. It's a team that has not shown a propensity for wanting to use just one running back. So there's probably going to be a few spike games out of each of those running backs. Then you also have DeAndre Swift, who, we've seen, has fallen out of favor with the Lions coaching staff. Maybe it was just a interpersonal thing between those individuals, but also maybe DeAndre Swift just may not have the best kind of coach's attitude, whatever we want to call it. Maybe he doesn't fall into good graces with the Eagles either. And now Kenneth Gainwell should not be being drafted at 190, but should be going around 160. Oh, by the way, we have Jalen Hurts. We have correlation. Kenneth Gainwell does catch passes.
That's what we need. Yeah.
Easy pick. I'm not.
That's why it made the most sense. Otherwise, I would have suggested, Genius is saying in the chat. Otherwise, I would have said, I'll take Deuce Vaughn over Kenneth Gainwell in a vacuum. I'll take a chance on that, given that it's only Tony Pollard. And it's almost like they left themselves no choice but to give Tony Pollard every single down. But even they don't believe Tony Pollard, although I think they're wrong, but they don't believe Tony Pollard's an every down back. So Deuce Vaughn, even at 5'5", he's going to have to play snaps. Ronald Jones probably won't even be active most days.
Yeah, I think I'm a little more I think Ronald Jones doesn't play special teams. Malik actually does. So decent chance that he's actually active. Deuce, I think probably a little more upside, but I'm probably fading these late round, 18th round running backs that we don't know their role until more we get to August, because we're usually better at projecting wide receivers this far out than those late handcuff running backs. There's too many situations. Keontae Ingram, Corey Clement, Samaje Perine. with the Chris Evans last year. Like, we just don't know. We get a little confidence in it. I'd rather wait till August to actually make those. While wide receivers, we're pretty sure who's going to be at least on the field at this spot, like a Robert Woods example.
And by the way, August, it's going to suck this year because remember, the NFL rules changed, allowing 90-man rosters until the final cut-down day. So all training camp, all preseason long, all 4 games, every team will have 90 men. That's a disaster for preseason DFS, for news, for shaking out running backs in situations. It's a mess until cut-down day.
Okay, I zoomed out a little so we can take a look at the team. We have 1 pick remaining, round 18. We have 2 QBs in Jalen Hurts, Bryce Young. We have 2 tight ends in Dallas Goedert, Dawson Knox. We have 9 wide receivers. I never want to go more than 9 wide receivers. So even if we don't feel comfortable with them, we just have to accept it and hope we're going to do well with them. Running backs, we have McCaffrey and Chubb. We have Alexander Madison, and we're counting on Dalvin not coming back. So Madison then being a really strong number 3. Kenneth Gainwell kind of complements. I see us either grabbing another running back or if there was a tight end that we still wanted.
I like some of these running backs.
Okay, talk me through them. Let's go. What do you want?
I Gus Edwards is always one. I mean, there are 2 running backs there. There's the only 2 that matter is J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards. And so we don't know J.K. Dobbins. We think he's going to be extremely healthy, but also the last time these 2 were actually healthy together, it was a complete timeshare, both inside the 10-yard line and just in terms of total touches 2 years ago. So yeah, I like Gus Edwards quite a bit. In this range at least. Boy, nope. Is that the only one I have to sell? Oh gosh, Kyron Williams will be active on special teams. Zach Evans, they traded up twice just for Zach Evans. They're already talking about him in post-draft press conferences as well.
There's so many mouths.
Chase Edmonds, because Rashad White, I don't think is a workhorse. So Chase Edmonds. Gosh,
let's do Gus. I'm good with it.
I like Gus. Gus isn't even about competition. Like, Gus is literally just about J.K. Dobbins being healthy, and what will it be then? Because no one's playing ahead of Gus. Or no third running back is playing ahead of Gus, I should say, not Dobbins.
And overall running back efficiency on Baltimore, we've seen Gus Edwards have 80-yard games with only 10 touches and a touchdown. That's still pretty substantial when we're only having, a 5 wide running back build.
I also draft Travion Williams in this range, knowing that he will be active. Like, yes, maybe Chase Brown, 5th rounder, workhorse at Illinois, does play ahead of Travion as Mixon's backup. But the fact is, both Chris Evans and Travion have to be active every week because they play special teams over Chase Brown. Like, Travion was the team's kick returner in the playoffs. Chris Evans was the team's punt returner in the playoffs. Those 2 guys are going to be active every week. So I still like Travion that last round. And then also Puka Nacua, the Rams wide receiver, in the 18th round as well. He like Jaden Reed, why I like Jaden Reed so much, they're basically used not only as hyper-efficient receivers, but they got a lot of carries in college as well. And so the fact that McVay probably purposely drafted Nacua, understanding that this wide receiver depth chart behind Kupp is so wide open, and also they can maybe use him for carries. I like that to squeeze that in. Love it.
Those are names that you do not hear on every show. Only not Jay Daigle is going to bring you here. So one more time, thank you for joining me. I always enjoy having you on these streams. I felt it was extremely appropriate to bring you on as one of the early ones, given the most accurate mock drafter for the NFL draft this year. Well done on that again. Anything else? Obviously, if you had not checked out his Twitter, you can look up the was it the Eliminator? I forget what
it is. It's the Fantasy Cares Eliminator. That's what it is. You can find it online. But again, I have the link on my Twitter right there at the top for you to join if you want to play. Again, it's free, but also you should donate a couple bucks. It's fine.
Yeah. Anything else you want to plug?
That should be about it. ETR has rookie tiers. I have rookie tiers. ETR has best ball. I have best ball ranks that are coming out next week. And like, we all are friends. So yeah, just read whoever you want. Doesn't matter.
I try to read as much as I can. There's now people out there who are literally doing the work for us and then recapping it for us. So like, there's so much in this content, and it is only May. It's going to be a great summer.
It is. Justin, thank you for having me on. Lots of fun.
Chat, you were fantastic. I will see you all next week. We'll be back Monday with it's an exciting one. Maybe John Daigle's shirt gives my guests away on that one. Have a great weekend. See you next week.